guys. Well, shalom. Guess what I'm doing today? And guess what you're going to go on an adventure with me to do? I'm going to do a stinky job. Because you know what? This is a platter of deliciousness. Yes. Any of you ever try to grow sunflowers out there? Raise your hand. Do it. I dare you. How many of you ever successfully ate more sunflowers than your squirrels? The squirrels I've fed many times growing sunflowers. Not very effective. However, there's a kind of sunflower, a native sunflower that wants to be here so bad it turned itself into a tree. And it became so scrumptious and delicious, woolly mammoths came and devoured their flesh. Inside this bucket of terror that's over here, I'll try to bring it near. The flies are drawing near unto my bosom right now. It's February, but it's just enough above freezing for the flies to resurface. Whew! And the water to be very cold. Here is my gestated Osage orange, hedge apple, my favorite plant. Look at this crazy brain looking wart thing. Inside here are sunflower seeds, basically. They're super nutritious and delicious. However, they're hiding inside these brains. And they've got like latex paint hiding inside there. So they're really awkward to get into. So it's best to just drop them in a bucket of water and let them gestate for a little while. And probably not the right word. However, they will get so much better over time. But I collected a bunch of these a long time ago. And I had this deep desire to plant a hedge, right? And I'm like, dang it, I'm going to have to actually do that. And so I've been staring at this bucket over here being like, I got to actually get in there and do the stinky things that I advocate, you know? Right now, I'm in the midst of doing one of those things that I advocate other people do, and but I had never done myself. So, lest I ever fall prey to the darn leaven of the Pharisees and the hypocrisies, I'm reading the Bible every single day, like a book a day. I challenge people to read a book of the Bible a day, and now I'm actually doing it, and it is prodigious. It's a monumental effort, but I'm loving it. And at the same time, it's very, very tough. I'll be real honest. It's not easy. I've been doing the audio narrating of the scriptures, and today I finished the Old Testament. Whoa. I cried really hard. Now, I finished in the book of Numbers, which is not in the normal order, right? I just jumped into this thing thinking that I was going to, real quick, before I get into that, I'll just show you the process here so you guys can gleefully examine this process for yourself, because inside here is sunflower seeds that are just wonderfully waiting for your joy and your delight. You're gonna get super stinky doing this job if you wait too long and you let them ferment too long, because now they're very functionally ripe. So inside here, these hedge apples are these seeds. And I've found the best way to get them out is basically if you can rip the whole thing in half once. I'm gonna let the girls hang out outside with us while we do this video. You guys can enjoy the background noise. They're talking about squirrels pooping on them. Yeah, it's real life. We're living in the forest. Praise Yahuwah. Oak trees and hickory trees, and I gave them a bucket with water and some balloons, and they're having a great time. But here's how I get them out. I rip this thing in half, and then the seeds are waiting for you, just like that. That's the easy ones. Those ones that are right there, you're like, yay, seeds. Then all the rest of them that are trapped inside there. They're monumentally different to get out of there. But good things require monumental efforts, satisfying things. Father's kingdom's all about outrageously difficult circumstances turning into wonderful life for generations to come. Because, you know, every one of these things that I wriggle out of this fermented sack of stinkiness right now has the opportunity to bear so much fruitfulness for the next 300 years, more than I can even possibly begin to understand. It could crank out 200 or 300 of these a year for hundreds of years. And how many thousands and thousands of seeds in just one season it can produce, and how many more trees that can produce. See, trees invigorate me like crazy because I've been on this wild experiment out here because I suddenly have the opportunity to poop outside. Yes. So because of that, I'm taking full advantage of it, son. Now, fair warning, some of you are going to get moderately uncomfortable about what I'm about to say next, but I am going to tell you to poop dangerously. I mean it. If you didn't know it, people for thousands of years have taken a stick reference this hickory stick or this one, and they dig a hole and they poop in it and then they bury it up. Now, as you do so, those seeds from the food that you eat, those non-digestible seeds, some of them are going to germinate. And some of them, like pepper plants, pepper seeds, they germinate so much so that they are actually more fertile. They germinate actually more readily after they've been in a little bit of an acid solution, like your stomach acids, and they thrive to life. See, I just squeeze this like this, and you can get those seeds to come to the surface. Super gross. Yeah, honey. Hold on a second. What's up?
My shirt is getting all wet.
It's reasonable. You're playing with water, right? Yeah. Here, I'll give you an idea. Take your sleeve, roll it up higher. Now, my hands smell like fermented beet juice. Why don't you go ahead and roll it up? You grab down here, pull it up towards your elbow. Hard, harder, harder. Keep going. That's right, keep going. Keep going. Yes. Now do that with the other sleeve. Come on, keep going. Keep going, above that elbow. Get it above that elbow, Jane. Come on. Perfect. Now, that should be pretty good.
I'm doing like a milk bottle, Dad.
You're doing a milk bottle? Let me see. Are you drinking that water? Okay, good. It's been in there for a little while. Nice. Does it feel like a milk bottle?
Yeah. I'm sucking in and out.
You're sucking in and out on the milk bottle. Do you want to say hi to people?
Hi. Me and Jane are spraying it like this.
Tell them. Show them what you're doing.
We're doing like this. No, wait for me! You stinky popsicle!
Stinky popsicle.
I'm sorry at you.
So where's real life behind the Reynolds scene? It's finally warm enough that we're all outside like regularly, and it feels super good. There are so many days that we had inside this season. A lot more than we were used to. Just like these seeds that were trapped inside this mucusy nightmare. But you know what? It's so good because spring is on its way, son. Yahuwah is so good. He gives everything in its due season. And you know what? This is the season for sowing, y'all. Have you sowed some good seeds lately? Oh, back to my pooping story. Thank you for the reminder. Hey, Naomi, do you want to tell them about pooping outside? Jubilee, do you want to tell them about how you poop outside? Come here. You don't want to tell them? Jubilee's my mighty champion. Come here, Jane. Come here. Do you want to tell them how you do it? What do you do when you go poop outside? How do you do it?
I'll tell.
Tell them. Tell them loud.
What we do is we go outside to a tree and we dig a hole and then we poop in it and then we bury it with dirt. And then what we do is we bury it with dirt and then we go and then we wipe with oak leaves.
Oak leaves. Why oak leaves?
Because they're better to wipe with.
Because they're better to wipe with. That's right. You don't want to wipe with leaves that are really weak. You don't want weak leaves when you wipe your butt. That's really highly effective.
What happens is you get poop or pee on your hands.
That would not be fun. Do you want poop or pee on your hands?
No.
No, definitely not. Practical lessons, huh? How many people do you think...
I just swallowed a little
How many people do you think pooped outside today?
I swallowed a little of the water. None.
None? Raise your hand if you pooped outside today. Did you poop outside? Me too.
I pooped. I peed and pooped.
You peed and pooped outside? You pooped outside? Way to go! Did it feel good? See? Come on now. Y'all could be pooping outside today and having a great day. I mean it. Some of you guys are destined for the forest, and you know what? You're going to be sitting there.
I found a little sparkly rock when I was pooping.
You found a sparkly rock before you pooped?
No, when I was pooping.
While you were pooping? You just looked over?
And it was a rock.
It was a sparkly rock? Sweet.
That's how I tricked Bear to go.
That's how you tricked Jubilee to go?
Yeah.
What did you do?
I said, Jane, you're going to find a treasure if you go outside and poop.
Hey, tell them. If you go outside and poop, you'll find a treasure. I mean it. Sooner or later, you're going to find a treasure while you're out there pooping. I try to do it in the dark, in the wee hours. I'm a morning pooper. Not everyone's so regular. But if you ate living bread regularly, you would most certainly be regular. Some of y'all watching this are constipated, and I'm sorry, but your life could change immediately. Eat living bread.
Mother! because she's pregnant. Like mother because she's pregnant. And she...
How are we helping Mom?
Mom said, she said, I'll poop outside once I'm not pregnant.
That's reasonable. That's reasonable. Chelsea gets a pass right now because she's uber pregnant. She's carrying child. Now, child's pooping every single day, right?
Ew.
No, not the same. No.
The baby is going...
Oh, man.
The baby's pee bulb. The baby's peeing on a pee.
Oh, my gosh. I think this conversation is directed towards potty talk, isn't it? Sounds like a little potty talk. Now, we're going to have to clean this thing up a little bit here. The reason I'm telling you guys about this is because this is the version of farming that I'm doing currently, okay? I record the audio Bible, I poop outside, and I plant seeds in the poop hole. Yes. Because you're going to create the most nutrient-dense little pocket of soil your forest and your land has ever even imagined. Your land has been waiting for your poop for so long, and you've been depriving it by flushing it down the drain. But now you have the opportunity to change the world, one poop at a time. This is the chance to change everything, y'all. Here's how I do it. I take a tree seed, right? Some kind of tree that I like, not others, like this Osage orange seed. I plant that, and I also plant a viney thing, like a tomato, and then like a squash, like a pumpkin or a squash, and I plant that in there, and then I put a handful of grass in there. So then I got grass, and then I got a shrub-like thing, and then I got legumes. I like to drop beans in there too. And what I'm creating is a multi-species little colony right there.
That I'm pouring water on here, so that on this little thingy, and I'm gonna pour it on there so the flies get away from it.
Yeah, because the flies are mobbing us right now, huh?
Yucky. And I'm
the flies want that fermented nastiness.
And if they come over, I'm gonna squirt them and kill them.
Go get some more water. You need a reload. Well,
Ew.
That's terrific. My hope is that you guys would live dangerously by pooping dangerously and finding ways to sneakily poop outside. Because you know what? It'll invigorate you. Now you can poop inside if you have a composting toilet. Then you take your poop outside, you dig a little hidey hole, you bury that thing in there, and then you put your seeds in there as well. Or you can just eat them. That's the other approach that I'm taking. Like I'm swallowing currants and elderberries because I love them and they're delicious and they're native here. The Ozarks are prodigiously good because you know what? You get all kinds of native food species like service berries. If you don't know about service berries, check them things out. Or mulberries, amazing. This is the stuff that I want to plant because I want a food forest that produces not just food for the squirrels and the deers and the turkeys, but it makes food for me too. You know, this is my approach right now.
Yeah.
Leave it there. Leave it there. Don't kick that. It's going to go all over my hide. None of that. None of that.
Yucky hide.
This one's overcooked. See that? That's just too much.
Now you know what I'm going to do?
He makes me nervous. No. Not over here. Not over here. Not over here. Over there. Over there. Over there. I'm just going to cut him into pieces and bury chunks of him all over randomly on this property. Hey, you doing all right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, my sermon for you today. Consider how the Torah talks about the pooping trowel. Take your trowel, dig a hole, poop outside. Wipe your butt with oak leaves or sycamore leaves. They're big, but they're crumbly. You want the just right ones. Oak leaves have these nice ridges. See that? One side's better for wiping than the other. You'll find out which. Now,
Ew. I'm gonna fill up with this water.
I hope you guys will excite yourself and change
Water,
change your life and your temple by doing something that you've never done nor considered. Now, some of you, granted, probably don't have the most opportunities to poop outside because you live in a neighborhood. But if you're really sneaky about it, you could guerrilla poop and guerrilla garden anytime you want by pooping in a park. Maybe not a park where you're gonna get caught. You know what I'm saying? Figure it out. Be resourceful, son. The days are upon us, or you must be resourceful. You must be sneaky as a squirrel, but bold as a lion. Not afraid of men and what they can do to you, but at the same time, go eat those seeds, y'all. Sow them out.
I'll grab your cup.
It's got all these scripture story references to sowing the seed. The most important seed of anything that y'all could be sowing, though, every single day is the word. So get the word out, y'all. Spread the word of Yahweh everywhere you go. Be a light in the darkness and spread the testimonies of how Yahweh has transformed your life and made you a totally different person. And if you haven't had that testimony yet, consider strongly regarding his words. He gave us this living book. There's no other book like it in all the creation. It's a book that I 100% certainly, every time you read it, it will change you. You'll never be the same when you look at it because it's not like the pages change, but it's the one who looks upon them. It's the gaze it's the eyes that are staring upon the page that forever see the world differently because you get a different lens with which to see the world, to see your neighbors, to see your enemies. to see those that persecute you, your bosses, your friends, your neighbors, the politicians, the governing authorities, the agents of evil that are out there in the world today. By regarding the words of the instructions of Yahuwah heartily, the Torah, which is a light unto your feet and a lamp unto your path, the living word of Yah, his loving instructions that go from Genesis all the way to Revelations, you get the opportunity to shine a light in a very dark world, which is beautiful. Because you know what? No city on a hill can be hidden. And if you light a light, you're not burying that thing in the ground for a reason. You need the light of the word to be shining in you so that it can shine on your neighbors and can shine abundantly in the lives of the people around you. And you know what? As we regard those simple instructions, like what we should do with our waste, we would find that Yahuwah's instructions only give life. A simple command about what to do with your body excrement turns into fruitfulness on your land. Because you know what? There's so much fertility that would happen. Like if a family took a composting toilet, like at the farm, this all started because I had to bury people, like strangers' poop. In Florida, down at Danny's farm, down in southern Florida, there's a farm called 12 Seasons Farm. And it radically changed my life because he had all these composting toilets. And like introduction day to the farm was like, hey, let me go show you around the property. None of that, none of that. Down at Danny's farm, he gave you the tour. And one of the things that he showed you was this little house that they had built, which is like a life dream that I would have, which was like a little laundry facility. There was a washer and there was no dryers in his culture. There was clotheslines abundantly. And even though it was monsoon seasons, you had to be creative. There was washing machines. There was an outdoor sink, there was a shower, and then there was a composting toilet. And all it was a 5-gallon bucket with a really nice seat and some good books, quality reading materials, and toilet paper next to it. Toilet paper went in the trash, you pooped in the bucket, and you buried it with sawdust. Fundamentals. It was real simple. Then you took that outside to these big yard waste containers. He had these huge yard waste containers. They looked like a gigantic trash can, very thick, very rugged, very strong. And what you did is every so often the poop bucket got filled up. And if you were the lucky person, the blessed person who filled up the bucket high enough, you had to take it out. Or if you just wanted to play the game of like who can stand up higher, you had to empty this thing in this massive container full of all kinds of other people's compostable goodness. And once you did that, that thing sat for a while and it just melted in this Florida's terrific, monumentally intense summer sun. And after time, a season or two, what would happen is it would break down enough and digest itself enough that it could become perfect human manure. Once you get human manure in your life, you realize that you have the most fertile black gold on the face of the earth, and that thing needs to go somewhere. And you know where it went? The bamboo. Danny had incredible bamboo, boundary, living fence around his whole property. He didn't do hedge apples like I'm intending to do. He did a living fence out of bamboo. And so what he did is we went out, and over the course of time, Ekachai, who was the amazing right hand of Danny, man from Thailand, actually Myanmar, smuggled across the border illegally. If you haven't heard my barefooted brawling stories, go check that out.
More elaborate. You got backup.
Daddy!
Now it's turned into a very serious climbing thing.
Dad, strap this.
What do you think, Jubilee?
I want to try. Jubilee, don't climb on it yet.
Check that out. I talk about Ekachai more in those. He and I and another man from Tanzania, an African though, really, from Tanzania, took these human manure yard waste things with the tractor. Oh man, and we had a super sketchy job, which was to haul these 6 gigantic yard waste containers across the farm and dump them out right there at the base of the bamboo trees. Grass, really. When we did that though, full disclosure, I was barefoot, and the first time we dumped it, it went all over me. And it's not definitely dirt yet. It's not even kind of dirt, because you know what? I really think the best way to do it is to just dump it in the ground. Dig a hole, drop it in, bury it. Let nature start working on it immediately. Why wait, son? Hasten the day. And you know what? I get it. You could let it compost down and slowly become dirt over a good long period of time. Excuse me while this motorcycle rips by. Reboost. You could take a while and let it compost itself down, and then you could sow that stuff anywhere. You know why Danny started doing this? Because he was poor. Yes. Danny, when he was the director of a place called Echo is like a missionary agricultural training school down in Fort Myers, Florida. He was like the director of their agricultural stuff. I'm sure he had a different title exactly than that, and he would correct me because he's very precise with his language. I'm more the general story guy, but he's the very articulate, slow, and tedious kind of guy. Anyways, they laid him off when his wife was about as pregnant as my wife is. And all he had was a fifth wheel to live in and some property. It's kind of echoing my life story right now. Anyways, Danny had a choice to make, and he had this orange citrus farm, and he had started the orchard because, you know what, an orchard is something you can kind of do on the weekend. Some of you all are like time poor right now. Maybe you're a little money rich, not exactly rich, but maybe you have a little cash flow in your life, and you're like, I'd like to have some kind of farming lifestyle thing. An orchard is something you can work in the weekends, supposedly. Whereas vegetable gardening is something that's like an every single day like thing. It's like a real thing, y'all. Vegetable gardening is savage. Row gardening is savage. You got to be ready up for it, man. You got to have a lot of labor and a lot of back. Something you should do in your teens and 20s, okay? Well, Danny had started this orchard and was selling oranges. Not exactly the most profitable thing to do when you're competing with the entire Florida citrus industry, which, by the way, is tanking tremendously because of terrible practices like not using the human manure. Anyways, Danny's farm got hit with this greening disease, like everywhere else down there, because the agricultural practices were destroying the soil microbiology, because nobody was pooping in the soil. They were all flushing it down into their drinking supply instead. Literally, get this, Orlando, big city, right? Florida is basically an island. I know it looks like something different. It's only like 120 miles, I think, that separates it from being an island, but it's basically an island. And the ground underneath it is just unbelievable amounts of caverns, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles of cavern systems full of fresh water. Well, what's going on down there is Florida's taking their wastewater, like clean, quote unquote, wastewater from their sewage systems, and they're just drilling holes down deep into that aquiferic water system, and they're just flushing it down there. They're literally flushing their toilet poo water right down into the drinking supply. It's likely that's not going to turn out well, right? Anyways, those citrus groves need those people's poop. It would make a world of difference for them if they sowed their poop right out under the trees. Now, it's obviously frowned upon these days to use human manure or even animal manure. There's a lot of legislation in the United States that literally makes it illegal for you to put animal manure out in your fields. Shocking. What's going to happen in our agricultural industry is we don't poop where we should. Well, get this. Danny was like desperate because his trees were getting cut down left and right. And fruit trees, orange trees in particular, are something that really yield more and more fruit after like 7, 10, 14 years. Like, there are good ways out. They're like a long-term investments for those of you guys that are into your portfolios. Plant trees instead. They make way more money eventually. I'm serious. They literally grow money. Danny used to laugh all the time as he was plucking oranges out of the trees. He's like, I literally grow dollar bills. He didn't have a maniacal laugh, but I sure did in my head as he did it. He would fill his bag and be like, money does grow on trees, Nathan. It really does grow on trees. People just don't know what it looks like.
Let me show you the out of a juice box.
Let's see it.
This is the honeybill. Kissable fruit. It's ugly. Looks like it's growing barnacles.
Yeah, this one too. It's the best kind.
Best thing to do is, if you can, you just gently go around the orange ahead of time. Oop, and squeeze it. Then you bite
Loosen the juice.
You loosen the juice. Then you bite a hole in the weakest spot of the peel. I already did that. And then
Squeeze it. Juice pouch. There's a juice pouch.
most of the time you don't get juice on you, but then you have this
Throw it out.
compostable peel.
Compost.
Life-giving oranges of death looking
Yes.
thing.
This is Meredith. She's our friend on the farm. Naomi's best friend on the farm. It's great. They're riding bikes today. Where's Juju? Oh, there's a little juice pouch, baby. There's a little juice pouch, girl.
Because people stop planting fruit trees in our neighborhoods for a reason. Because they don't want us to be dependent on the fact that you could go outside and eat food that grows wildly. Asheville, North Carolina was the first place I ever went to that had like landscaped food culture. And I was like, service berries and mulberry trees all over the place. The city had on their website, like their state-run website, instead of like leading you to death and despair and court bills, it was like, hey, here's where our fruit trees are. We're like, what? You guys planned on humans eating outside? They're like, you betcha. It was amazing. It's like agro-tourism. It's a clever idea. Consider it strongly. If you're a mayor watching this, I know a mayor was just watching this recently. Plant fruit trees, nut trees, things people want to eat, and I'll come visit your place and make it famous. As famous as I can. Anyways, Danny was desperate because he was watching his entire farm just be cut down, tree by tree by tree. The state of Florida literally went through and cut down people's private citrus trees in your yards. They're like, you know, we're going to stop this disease. You are amazing. pleasantness, Naomi. Thank you. Will you, I want to drink it, but will you set it right there in those leaves? I feel so loved.
Mom said, can you go take this to Dad? And I said, sure.
You betcha. Thank you, Naomi. I still want you and Jubilee to come back outside. I miss your faces already.
But she said that it could come in if we sat down and colored.
Oh, well, I'd love for your company. Anyways, Danny had a dilemma because the state of Florida was going through and cutting down everyone's trees. And they're like, we're going to stop the greening disease by cutting down trees, which is idiocracy. Seriously, foolishness. I'm not reviling those elders that made the decision. I'm reviling the idiocracy that came through their minds. The beguiling spirit, the deceiving spirits. It's like King Ahab. Yahuwah was looking for a way to totally get that guy dead. And he's like, how are we going to get King Ahab led to his death and fulfill the words of prophecy that I gave over him? And this is in his divine council room. For those of you that don't know, Yahuwah doesn't just sit there on a throne just chilling. He's got a council room full of all these incredibly wise immortals, okay? Not eternal ones, immortals, divine counsel. Read Psalm 82, shockingly effective. He sits there and he has counsel with people and he's got wisdom in the council chamber. And he's like, how are we going to do this? He obviously could do everything himself, but he likes to have other people be a part of the process. And it's amazing. He likes to co-labor. So he's got this council together and they're like, how are we going to get King Ahab to die? And you know what they decide? One of the spirits says this and another one says that. And then all of a sudden, one spirit comes forward and is like, I will go. He's like, huh? What are you going to do? And he's like, I will go be a deceiving spirit in the mouth of all the prophets. And he's like, go and let this word surely be established. So one spirit, check this out. One spirit goes down into the earth and deceives, puts a word of Yahuwah into the mouth of hundreds of prophets, okay? Hundreds of prophets all over the land of Yisrael. During that same time, there's one other prophet, and he is the outlier. He's like the guy pooping in the woods in the forest, crazy outlier, freak show people, okay? Never says anything the king likes. So the king hates this guy, but at the same time, he respects the guy because you know what? He still says the truth, and he doesn't want to ask that guy what he has to say. So all the prophets gather together because the king of Judah and the king of Israel come together, and they're like, let's go make war. And we're like, let's do it. Let's do it. We can totally do it. And he's like, let's do it together. And he's like, hey, real quick, king of Yehuda is like, why don't we ask Yahuwah? We should ask the prophets. I mean, we should probably ask the prophets. We should inquire of Yahuwah before we should set out on this task, you know, like waging a war. Things you should probably sit down and count the cost to do before you do it. Anyways, they go ahead and hold this council chamber together. They have their own little divine council, right? They have their little council ready together. They call all the prophets. There's hundreds of prophets show up, and they're all like, you should surely go, king. You will win. One of the main prophets, he's like makes iron horns and puts them on his head, buffalo horns, right? The American bison horns, puts them on his head, and he's like, with these, you're going to drive the enemy back and destroy them. And they're all like, well, this is good. This is great. The king's like, sweet, fantastic. Problem is, King of Yehuda's like, you got anybody else? Like, any other prophets? And he's like, well, yeah. But there's this one guy. I hate him. I hate him so much. And he's like, we should probably call him. We should hear what he has to say. So then they call him in and they hear what he has to say. And you know what? On the way, when they go to pick up this guy, it's like witness protection. It'd be like the Secret Service showing up at your door and knocking. I have dreams about that kind of stuff happening all the time. Like, they just show up one day and just knock on the door. And they're like, we need you to come with us. And you're like, says who? And they're like, thus saith the king. And you're like, all right, I'll go. So he goes, and on the way, the escorts are like, listen, everybody is pro the war. So you need to also be pro the war. Be that guy, all right? Be that prophet. And he's like, I can't go beyond the word Yahuwah puts in my mouth. And they're all like, dang it. Do it, all right? Just be that guy. Be cool. Be cool, right? So he goes all the way to the king's court. And when he gets there, what does he say? They're like, go ahead and tell us, should we go and have war with them? And he's like, go and do all that's in your heart. And he's like, don't you lie to me. I told you, don't you lie to me. King Ahab's like, I know you. I told you. You always tell me the truth. Just tell me the truth. And he's like, I saw the house of Israel scattered across the hillsides, fleeing for their lives. He's like, dang it. I told you this guy never has anything good to say. And then the head prophet walks up to him and smacks the prophet. And he's like, when did the spirit of Yahuwah look over me and go to you to tell you the truth? And he's all like, Basically, they have a tit for tat. Doesn't go well. He's like, you ain't going to see this, son. You're going to die, too. So they don't like that the prophet had to say, so they lock him in prison, right? They're like, you go to jail until we come back. Obviously successful, covered in all kinds of booty because we've been splendidly successful on our campaign. Ready? They go out to their battle. King Ahab is like, I'm going to disguise myself and hide because he's got the fear of men saturated and dripping all over him because his wife Jezebel and all her sorceries. Anyways, he disguises himself and puts on regular apparel, meaning he goes out there and instead of wearing his scaled body armor and all his cool, savage, tactical, cool kit, he goes out to there dressed like a commoner. Well, the king of the bad guy side, the army of the other side, he told his army, he'd be like, listen, don't fight with the house of Israel. Don't fight with any of their soldiers. Just go after the king. And so then they go after the king, and when they're chasing down the king, they try to go to kill him, and they're like, that's not even him. It's an imposter. It's like some of you guys wondering whether or not our kings and sovereigns and presidents and principalities are actually who they are, or they're clones or some other guy. Obviously. Y'all, it's a circus. Don't get caught up in it. Stay out of that riffraff. Get into the word. Saturate yourself in the water of the word. Transform your life. You can literally see through the mind control. Shockingly effective. If you just take off the scales of Babylon and stop looking at their system, start looking at the water of the word, you can see all that stuff just fine. It gives you the way to rightly divide and discern the thoughts and the intents of the hearts of man. It literally allows you to cut through all the nonsense, all the fermented stinky stuff out there and just get right to the heart of the matter and to the good seed, okay? Anyways, an archer at random draws his bow back like the bow arc, the arc of the acacia, the golden arc of glory, the incredible Osage orange bow, draws it back and fires it off at random and shoots right through King Ahab's sweet scaled armor. Savage, wounded, just like King Saul. Every time I hear about archers wounding bad kings, it makes me nervous. And then I think about the armor of Yahuwah, and it talks about these fiery arrows of the wicked one, and we're supposed to like extinguish these. King Ahab didn't have the shield of faith, son. King Saul didn't have his shield up either. Both these guys died because they didn't have shields of faith. They didn't have belief. You know why I know that? Because King Saul thought every day of ways how to murder King David. King Ahab thought of ways to murder the children of Yahuwah and the righteous prophets, the people that actually had the word of Yahweh in their mouth. He hated them. He despised the righteous. And you know what? He lifted up and exalted the wicked. Just like Doeg the Edomite was King Saul's wicked one that he raised up to slaughter all the priests of Yahuwah, all their children, and the entire village of what was it? What was the town? Dang it, I've lost it. Anyways, they kill hundreds of the priests of Yahuwah and all of their families, Doeg the Edomite, because King Saul fears men more than he fears Yahuwah. King Ahab likewise feared men, feared his wife more than he feared Yahuwah, and wanted what he wanted. He wanted his own kingdom. But you know what? Yahuwah surely got him with the archers, just like King Saul was gotten with the archers, but not by the hand of David, which is why we don't need to be raising up an army of tactical remnant. We need people that are so savagely educated on the water of the word that they can cut down their enemies with a word. Yahuwah can appoint the deliverance of us from our adversaries with one word from our mouths. Samuel the prophet didn't have to fight King Saul's soldiers when they came to kick down his door and slaughter him and David. The word of Yahuwah was a shield to him. No archers came near the prophet Samuel. No archers came near Elisha or Elijah. None of them. With the word of their mouth, they defended themselves and their families and the righteous. With the word of their mouth, they blinded hundreds of thousands of people in a moment of time. Blinded them. Led an entire nation, their best soldiers, an entire army came to attack Elisha and drag him back to the kings that were like, they got this prophet, this like super spy who can tell you anything you're doing back there. Why don't you instead? They're like, go capture that guy. Because as long as he's existing, you're never going to be able to conquer Israel. They sent a whole army to get that guy, and he's all like, no problem. Blindness. The whole army's blind. And you know what he doesn't do? Kill them all. When he had the opportunity, he could have led them all to their death. He could have led them all astray. But he took them to the gates of Samaria, Shamaron. If you don't know these stories, guys, listen, I read the entire book, audio narrative style, so that it would be enriching and captivating and try to bring these words to life. Gut-wrenching agony for the last 2.5 months of my life. I have just been wrenching myself day and night from like the darkest dark of the night, like 3 and 4 in the morning. I sit there and I labor so that you guys would read these words, so that you would know these stories, so that they would fill you with passionate zeal, and they would give you like a super sick, savage shield of faith, like a saucy shield of faith. And then when all this crap starts getting thrown at you and people trying to be afraid and scare you into living a lifestyle that is contrary to the way of the word, you would know it and you would call horse manure, horse apples on that. None of that. You would know the nonsense when you hear it because you would be filled with overflowing with the water of the word. Anyways, the stories are just, they're so good. The book of 2 Kings, y'all, and 1 Kings are just rich. And 2 Chronicles. Turns out I haven't read much of 2 Chronicles. It's amazing. I challenge you, listen to that one. It's so rich. It's good, it's meaty, it's seedy like this. It's probably full of that many seeds, but it's covered in a whole lot of genealogies. And most people think of genealogies like they look at this vegetable or this fruit and they're like, ew. But inside is nothing but goodness, son. So get into them, dive into those genealogies, swim around in them for a good long while till you know how to say them yourself. And then you be bold and mighty. Anyways, then when you're at your Shabbat study or you're at the Bible school, at the Bible class and stuff and hanging out with people and they get to the genealogies and you got the people that don't know how to read them, you'll be confident. You'll be like, I'll wade right into that, son. I got you. And you'll be like, I'm a good battle buddy. I can read the genealogies. That should be like the character traits of righteous men, like meaty manhood instead of like the gray beards and the M4 tactical carbine rifle tactical guy. People are like, that's a mighty man. No, it's the guy who can read the genealogies like a savage. And they're like, dang, respect. Anyways, things I dream of. This is what the Gibberim were super good at. They were living with King David in caves and pooping in the ground. Where do you think King David's mighty men were pooping, y'all? You betcha. Hidey holes, son. Anyways, Elisha has got a super giant army coming to hunt him down and get him to come talk to the king, right? And he's all like, no way, man, blind that guy. He takes the entire army, leads them to the gates of Samaria. And the king of Israel is like, what? His entire army's enemies just showed up at his door and they're all blind. They're all blind. Super easy kill, right? Just, you can headshot all of them simultaneously with all your archers. Just lay siege to them, son. Anyways, he says, what should I do with them? He asked the prophet, wise move. When one guy leads an entire army to your door, you should probably ask that guy what you should do. He says, what should I do with them? He says, give them bread, give them water, and send them home. And you know what that did? Come on. That's obedience. That guy knew the word because that's what you're supposed to do to your enemies. When your enemies come, they're like, the tactical teams are going to come and take all our food and all our guns and all our lives. They're going to destroy our families. Stop being a prophet of Baal, first of all, because that spirit is not the spirit of Yahuwah. Yahuwah is a shield, okay? His favor, he covers his people with favor like a shield. Go ahead, type in the word shield and do a word search on that. And then go ahead and sit down and methodically write that out. On every Nature Nate treasure bag, I sit down and I write a scripture on there. Because I'm like, there's one great treasure that I could give to everyone. Like the one thing I've really wanted to give away. I would just want to give. I'm not about profiteering. I can't sell this stuff. I could sit here, you guys, and take these talents that Yahuwah has given me and merchandise them and make enough for my family to live much more comfortably than tent life right now. However, Yahuwah has appointed me to be a giver. And so I'm taking these time and the talents that he's given me and the resources and diligently laboring to give something that's very costly away at a price that anybody can have access to. Because if it was not given to me freely, I would be in debt forever. If somebody hadn't given me the word freely, I would be perishing and in debt to the sins, the boundless pile of sins that pile up to the heavens all my life, unless somebody came along and freed me and gave me peace of mind through the deliverance of the word of Yahuwah, through the blood of the Lamb, Yeshua HaMashiach. If nobody had come along and given me the blood of the Messiah and told me about the entirety of the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation, I would never have gotten a shield of faith. When I was young, I had a zealous belief and conviction and confidence in the word being true, trustworthy, and valid. And ever since then, I have been able to walk out this narrow road through all kinds of wiles and schemes of the wicked. I have seen hundreds of people perish before my eyes. I have been responsible for the death of many people. And you know what? All along that time, I've seen fractions of inches of things coming at me this far away from me that could have killed me and should have killed me, but they killed somebody else instead. And you know what? Yahuwah protected me and he shielded me from things. And I have confidence of knowing that he will shield you too. If you put your life in his hands, if you trust in him completely, he will protect you. And you don't need to be fearful of what man can do to you, but what Yahuwah has in store for you. You should fear him. And all those other fears, they die. They literally atrophy. Right now in this forest, why you don't see weeds growing everywhere is because these trees over my head are shading it out and they have dominated the soil and they've turned the soil out of a bacteria-dominant environment, like you guys that mow your lawns all the time, right? If you have like yard art out there where you mow your lawns and you got grass, that's a bacteria-dominant environment. That's what would happen if I took this thing out here and just left it out here. If you clear off all of the trees out of here, the soil here is going to go from a fungus dominant area. Think of mushrooms. All these trees and stuff are getting broken down when a branch falls down or a tree falls down. All these mushrooms sprout up all over it, right? That's fungus growing all over it. Let me show you, because it's a picture's worth 1,000 words. Let me show you. Let's see. Here. This is how I know this forest is happy and alive and full of fungus. You see these little buddies? They look like dead, shriveled warts. They're like turkey tail kind of things, right? I don't know if they're edible or not. I like to mess around with mushrooms sometimes in the wild forageable life sections of my life. This thing had a lot of poison ivy on it, so I want to be moderately cautious. Turkey tails are delicious, and I like to grind them up and put them in my coffee regularly. I like making this. Like that little thing they brought me comes from a bark bag. I make my own bark bags. I should probably talk to you guys about those. I go out and gather medicinal barks because I love them. They're delicious, and I grind them up with my coffee grinder, and then I brew them up like a little medicinal boost all the time, and I just steep them in a coffee percolator. It's delicious, or an AeroPress. I like that too. But like that one's got a bunch of white oak bark in it. It's got dandelion roots. It's got, let's see, what else? Marshmallow root. I love marshmallow root. It's got licorice root, which is delicious. It makes it sweet even without syrup. Maple syrup all the time. What else is in that one? I don't know. A couple other things. I'm trying to think here for a second. Hold on. What else did I put in that one? Oh, linden leaves. The linden tree leaves. They're super delicious. I like to go to like the natural food stores and hit up their apothecary section, and I sit there and take a little bit. And I just look up every single one of the things that are in there because I don't know what they are. And I'm like, medicinal uses, and I type in and be like, buckthorn root. I'm like, all right, buckthorn root. And they're like, oh, alleviates constipation. I'm like, oh, I know someone who's constipated. Not me, but somebody else I know and I love. Anyways, there's all kinds of delicious, incredible medicinal things that are out there. And you just steep them in water and boil them for like 10 minutes. Life-changing, invigorating. They'll give you as much exhilaration as this tree. Check this out. This fungus is breaking down this oak tree. This is a blackjack oak. That's what was on this thing. It died, fell over. The forest is digesting it. See? Fungus. Super good sign of a healthy forest. You want fungus in your life. Not necessarily in your body too much, but this forest is way healthier because of that. Because it's not been cut down all the time. Now, if we cut through down, now other places on this property, like where they've been cutting down the trees, there's a power line that's not far from here, and it runs this way, and the power companies, they'll come in and they just buzzsaw everything down. Now, you know what grows up? And the first thing that grows up right away to try to reclaim it is briars, thorns and thistles and savage, pokey, miserable things. That's because they're super bacteria dominant. And they're like, you know what? We can get away with all of this right now because there's lots of bacteria that are active right now and all the fungus died away. But you know what? The healthiness of this forest comes from the trees. These trees, because they're providing this incredible canopy of shade right here, they're shading out so that none of those briars and those things are growing anymore. As the forest matures and trees start to come back into it, all of those other things that used to be there can't live there anymore. The bad guys can't live there anymore as long as the soil gets the health that it needs and the trees are able to get what they need. As the tree matures over time, it creates an environment that is where none of those thorns and those thistles and those pesky little invaders can abide any longer. And if you guys will transition your life from the infancy of faith, from the starting point of conviction and confidence in walking in Yahuwah's ways, and if you would start to boldly prune out of it everything else that comes from the worldly influence, like if you would make a covenant with your eyes to not give them over to look lustfully upon the pleasures of the world, and you would start to garnish a hunger and a desire for the water of the word and for the things, doing the things that please him and are pleasing in his sight, it will transform the soil of your heart to be conducive to producing good fruit, and it will produce in you the fruit of righteousness. This is the goal in our lives. The goal is that we ourselves would become so fruitful that wherever we go, we are a city on a hill, a bright menorah burning brightly that gives light to the whole room. Okay? It's a sweet savor before Yahuwah. When we make a fast with our eyes, when we fast our time, and we give it away, like, because I've been focusing on this word, the project of this word, I'm not watching videos and distracting myself with like entertainment. It's been very hard because I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I still like to be entertained. I still like to sit there and scroll on videos and watch stuff. And I've had to try to cut that off, and it's been so difficult. And I realize it's a stronghold in me. Like, the stronghold is an instant escape is available through my phone at any time, day or night. I can immediately escape in there, but I'm trying to fast from it. And by doing that, I'm trying to starve this system that is in my soul, this other plant, this poisonous, noxious vine. Like the thing that does grow around here that's still here is poison ivy. And it's all over the place in here. And it's a very noxious, toxic plant. And it's like the cancerous things of the world that are still clinging to me, that are like that. And I feel like the more I can starve it out of me, and the more I turn my affections and my diligent labors towards the word, I know it's going to starve that system out of me. And it's going to leave me capable of being more fruitful for my family. Like the relational change that's happened through Chelsea, Naomi, and Jubilee and I since December, when I started cutting all this stuff off, is indescribable. My life is so different. Like Naomi and I's relationship, y'all, was not good. It was okay, but it wasn't good. Like she didn't run up to me and hug me at all. Like she didn't voluntarily do that. She wasn't like just prone to just run over and clutch me and snuggle me when she got hurt. And now she does. Like we're doing this thing where we're counting. I count every day, like how many days she's run up to me and just given me a hug. Been like, just clutched me. 36 days that child has run up to me and just hugged me. And I tell her, Naomi, she's pleasant to my soul and healing to my bones. Naomi. Because Nun, Ayin, Mem, like her name, Naomi, is all over the scriptures. It's literally when you're reading along the Bible and you see like pleasant or delight, you're reading my daughter's name. Like it's not just the time you see it in Ruth where it says Naomi, the mother of, the mother-in-law of Ruth, and like the great-grandmother of David. Naomi is this pleasantness, this delight. Like that's my daughter Naomi. And so like I found a scripture when I was reading that said that, like healing to my bones and pleasing to my soul, pleasant to my soul. It's like, that's my daughter. And like I had viewed her corruptly. I viewed her as an adversary to my peacefulness in my life because she disrupted my mind. Like when I had a child, it changed my whole world in such a way that like I love her, but I didn't actually know what that means. I didn't have the right context for love in any capacity when it comes to children. I was so corrupted and perverted as a child with what love is. And I still am on a process of learning what love is and how to have a sincere and overabounding love for children, even when they're screaming and crying and fussy and whiny and loud and annoying, all of that. To have a genuine love for my family in a small space. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about because you are now living in small spaces, and it's going to prune you like crazy. It's going to reveal what's in your heart, which has been generally a compartmentalized lifestyle. Most of the people that have grown up in our culture live a very compartmentalized lifestyle in their houses, and they can just get away to everybody their own space. But when you live smaller, it forces all those issues to the forefront of your life, and you have to deal with them. And you know what? Naomi and I and my children have had a bonding take place because I've taken an affection towards them. I've turned my heart towards them in love. Like I sincerely am gaining affections for them rather than a desire to escape from them. And it's creating the fruits of peace in my home like never before. And I'm so excited. I'm so thankful for the fruit that's coming from it. And you know what? And the fruit that will come from it, because it required a massive cutting off of who I am. It required a huge death of myself. It required me putting to death an absolute passionate desire that was within me, which was to get out and be alone, to get away. And you know what? Yahuwah has not appointed me to run away. He's appointed me to stand firmly planted with my feet on the word of Yahweh, the feet on the good news of Yeshua, that I would not move off of it, that I would be like a tree planted, like these trees that are planted here, like that gigantic oak tree that never moved from its placement. It has been here as a faithful witness for 100 years. And you know what? It has been fruitful. I met a guy who had come through here. There was a couple of cows that were running on the highway the other day on Shabbat? No, on the day after, day one. There was a couple cows running on the highway. And I just ran down. I just grabbed a stick, a big long hickory staff, and I just went chasing after them. And you know, they're like 2 calves, which are not calves. In cow world, they're still probably like 600-pound animals. They were like young yearlings, I guess. I don't know. They're big, and but not gigantic. You know what I'm saying? Anyways, they're running along the highway, and there's no shoulders here. I don't know why in the Ozarks they don't make shoulders on their roads, but apparently they just don't like to. So I'm running alongside the highway, and these cows are wanting to go back and forth. And I remember one of my friends gave me advice, who was a cattle rancher, and he said the best way to move cattle is to put your hands in your pockets and to walk. So I did that, and it totally helped tremendously. Anyways, I spent like 35 minutes walking these cows along fence rows, trying to find somewhere that I could get them to go in. In the course of that, I ended up meeting like 15 of my neighbors that I would have never met any other way. And one of the guys, the old timer from the area, he came by and saw this whole dilemma of what was going on and all these neighbors trying to figure out who these cows were. And I was definitely dressed as oddly as you see me here. So I'm moderately out of character to these parts of these woods. Anyways, he was super friendly, and he ended up telling me over the course of us trying to rebuild and get these cows into this field and then rebuild and fix this guy's entire fence line, because people are awesome out here. We fixed this guy's whole fence line. We got these cows back in there, and then he drove me back over here to the property, and he told me that he was the one who had bulldozed this land to try to put a trailer here like 47 years ago. And he had selectively left these big mature oak trees here. He's like, I decided to leave those because it's always good to leave the old ones. And because that man did that, he left these things that has held and established this forest, even though people cut a lot of the trees down here. Because those were here, they held the stability of this forest throughout the entire time of the last 50 years. And now they've provided me a canopy of shade I know that I'll need during the course of the heat of the summer. And they've maintained the stability of the soil health here. And they provided a refuge to innumerable plants and animals for generations. And you know what? We're supposed to be like that. We are supposed to ripen and become like those bold and dangerous trees that are just steadfastly, unmovably, consistently advancing the kingdom of Yahuwah no matter the cost. So I hope you guys will take to heart the wonderful water of the word, and that you would drink deeply and you would be satisfied with the bread that comes from heaven that satisfies men's souls, and it will fill you with life. I love you all. It's been fantastic talking to you today. May you live dangerously, poop in the woods, and plant seeds. I'll talk to you soon.